So, welcome back. So, in the last session, we have discussed about how to work with input function, how to work with global versus local variables and typecasting, and we have done few operations based on that. In today's session, let's focus on file handling. See, in general, when you're working with like data science, or it may be machine learning, or it might be creating some kind of applications, you need to work with files. So when I say files, you might be working with a Excel file, or you might be working with a text file, or you might be working with an image file, something like that. So today we will be learning about how to work with files using Python. So we will be using a Python as a tool, Python as a programming language, and we'll try to handle files in a various ways using your Python programming language. So when I say handle your files, what kind of operations we'll be doing with file? In general, whenever we want to use a file, what are the operations we generally will do with the files? So we just do create, right? We create a file, obviously. We read something, we read content from the file. We update the files for our requirement, and we also do some kind of deletion and some kind of modification operations, like maybe renaming a file or deleting a file, something like this. These are the major operations we do when you are working with files, right? So the same kind of operations we'll be learning when you are by using Python. Okay. So when you want to use Python for handling files or to work with files, there is a inbuilt function in Python that is called as open. Okay. So open function will be helping us to handle files. So let's see how to use open function and how to handle files using open function. Okay. So we can just simply say open. Okay. Open is a inbuilt function. So you can directly say open. Basically right now we'll be passing two arguments in open function, mainly two arguments. The first argument is your file path or file name. Okay. File path or the file name. The first argument is your file path or file name. See, when I say file path or file name, if your code and if your file is present in the same folder, happily you can use the file name as the argument, and you can directly pass. Automatically it can take. But if your folder, if your code and if your file is present in different folder, you cannot use this file name as an argument. Okay, you should give the complete path, then only it can accept. Okay, that is important name. So either you can give a file name or file path. Okay, so let me give a file path. So let's read a sample text file right now. Let's start with the basic text file, then we'll be proceeding with discussing about how to work with JSON file or image file or some other CSV file or something like that. Okay, first let us start with a text file. So I have a sample text file right now. So this is my sample text file. I'll try to read this particular text file right now. So I'll just copy the path of this particular text file first. So I'm just copying the path of this. Yeah, done. So once I copy, I'm just pasting this path. Okay, so I'm just pasting this path, and I would recommend that whenever you are using this path in Python, I would recommend giving a raw string. So we already discussed about this raw string previously in our previous sessions. So raw strings, it's like a raw value of a string where it will avoid all the slash functionalities and all those things. So like this, I'm giving a raw string like this as a path. And second argument, so first argument is a file path or file name we have, which are passing here, and the second argument is your mode. Okay, second argument is your mode. So mode indicates what is the permission you want to give to your file to access. Okay, what is the permission you want to give to your Python, because right now you are accessing your file using Python, right, using your Python programming. So what permission you want to give to your file to access your what permission you want to give to your Python program to access your file. So you can give only read permission, you can give only write permission, you can give both read and write permission. So depending upon the requirement and depending upon the use case, you can give a specific mode to access the file. So it indicates what? The permission to access the file. Okay, what kind of permission you want to give to access the file. So right now, if I talk about the permissions, we have a lot of permissions available. I mean, there are list of permissions, list of modes available in general. So if you want to see what are the modes available, you can just click on Shift tab obviously you'll be getting the entire documentation of this particular what we call this particular function called as open. So I'll just open this particular documentation. I'll just scroll down. Yes. So here you can see that there are a lot of modes available. So if we just scroll down slightly, you can see the documentation, and you can see what are the modes available. So just copy this and paste it outside such that we can discuss each and every operation. Okay. I'll just paste it above. Cool. So these are the various permissions available like R, W, X, A, B, T. We'll talk about that. Let us start with R mode. So according to the documentation, if you use a mode called as R, it means that what? It will be opening the file for reading purpose. Okay. If you want to open a file for reading purpose, only for reading purpose. So when you open a file using R mode, it will be opening only for reading purpose. It will not, you're not able to write or modify your file. So that's the thing. So let me try to open this file with mode R. So I'll just give mode is equal to R, and cool. So right now my file has been opened, but if I want to use the file, it means if I want to read it or if I want to do some kind of modifications, of course I cannot do modifications using R mode, but if I want to read a file, I should save this in a variable, right? Whatever I opened, basically when I call the open function, I will be getting the output in the form of an object, that is text IO wrapper object. I have to save this object somewhere, the file object somewhere. So I'll be saving this in a variable called as F. Here F stands for file. You can give any variable. I'm giving a variable called as F to save my object called as text IO wrapper. Now, if I want to start reading my file, I should use a function called as read. Okay, so read will read my file, will read the contents in the file. So if I just call read, you can see this is the content present in my file right now. I'll just open this file. It's just a random sample text here. So you can see this is the content present in the file, and that is what it is read here. You can see. You can also, so read function returns the contents in the file, as simple as that. And if you want to save this in a variable, I'll say like this: data is equal to f dot read, and I'll reopen my file and do data is equal to f dot read. And if I say data, you can see my whatever data was read from the file was saved. Okay, this is how you'll be working with the file simple read operations. And if you want to close your file, I mean, whenever you do your operations and whenever you complete your operations with file, I would always recommend to close your file. What happens if I don't close? Don't worry, we'll discuss that also. I'll show a small example what happens if I don't close my file. But right now, let me show you how to close your file. So you can just simply say f.close function, and it will close your file. So in this way, you're reading your file, you're opening a file for reading purpose, you're reading your file using read function, and you're closing your file. Now, by chance, if I open my file with read mode and if I try to write my file, I mean, if I say f.write, so basically, if you want to write some data, if you want to add some data to the file, you'll be using a function called as write. So if I say write and if I say some data, I want to write a string called as data maybe in my text file, it will not allow because it says unsupported operation not writable, because we have opened with only read mode permission, R mode permission. So it will only able to read it. We cannot write it or update it. That's how it works. Okay, cool. So in this way, we have explored about R mode. Okay. Before going to the next mode, that is W or X or A or B, I want to show you the one more important thing. That is, if you just carefully observe this particular R mode, one thing I want to show you that. Now, let's carefully observe here. First, I'm opening the file. That's very good. I'm reading the file using f.read. Cool. After reading my file, again, if I call read f.read, means again, if I call the same function f.read, just see what happens. I'll be getting an empty string. See, just carefully observe. I'll just remove this variable right now for timing purpose, for time being purpose. Again, I'm opening a file, reading the file. I've completely read it. Again, if I say read, I'm getting this empty string. So why do you think I'm getting in this? Just pause this video and you can try guessing it why this is happening. Okay. So what happens here is whenever you open a file, you'll be having something called as cursor. You'll be having something called as cursor. That is very, very important in any file operations. It is cursor. So the moment you open your file, your cursor will be at first position. You can see even when I open a file in a notepad also, you can see my cursor is at first position. Okay, so when you start reading your file, it starts from the first position. It reads your entire content, complete content, when you call read function. And once your read function is completed, your cursor will be at this position right now, right? At the last position right now, right? Now, when my cursor is at last position, if I call again f dot read, what it does, after last position it reads. After last position, the content is empty. Obviously, in that case, there is no content to read. That's the reason you're getting empty string. So what happens is, once you read your entire data from your text file, again if you try to read, okay, again if you try to read, you'll be getting an empty content because it is in the last position. The cursor is the last position. Okay, so you can just have a look at here. Okay, again I'll open read it. Okay, so then how do we solve this problem? I mean, how do I know that I can where is my cursor position, or how to bring back my cursor position to first? So it's very simple. First thing, if you want to know what is your cursor position, it is very simple. You can use a function called as tell. Okay, tell, tell. Okay, so I can just simply say f dot tell. So it tells us what is the cursor position. Okay, so whenever I say f dot f is equal to open, and if I say f dot tell, you can see right now my cursor position at 0. Perfect. The moment I read it, and if I again call f dot tell, sorry, yes, you can see my cursor position is at 573. Means what? Previously, before read, your cursor position was at 0. After reading your content, your cursor position is right now here, which is approximately 573. So that is the reason if I say f dot read again, you are getting from 573. From 573, it is nothing. So you're getting like this. To solve this problem, you can actually bring back your cursor position to specific position. Means right now I want to bring back to 0, such that I can read my contents again. Something like that I want to do. Then you should use a function called as seek. Okay, seek. So seek is like a seek bar. See, generally when you listen music or when you watch YouTube videos, you'll be using something called a seek bar, right? Which seeks your video or audio either forward or backward. So in that way, you can seek your cursor positions. So let's see how can we do that. So once you say f dot tell, it is right now in the 573 positions, you can see. Now what we can do is, if you want to seek to the 0th position, you can simply say like this, f dot seek to 0. So if I say in this seek, I have to provide the argument. It tells us where you want to move your cursor position. If I say f dot seek of 0, and if I run this right now, you can see it came at the 0th position. And if I again call f dot tell right now, so you can see it is at 0th position right now. And now if you call read f dot read it, you can see it came. So in that way, if you want to read from a specific position also, you can use seek and you can go to that particular position and read. Maybe let us assume that I want to read my content from the 10th position. So what I can do, I can simply say f dot seek of 10. I can give the value called as 10. It is seek. Okay, so it is right now 10th position. So you can also use f dot tell to tell the position. Yes, it is at 10th position. Now if I call read, it will start reading from the 10th position. You can see 10th position is starting from here. So it is starting from this particular position and reading. So in that way, you can seek your cursor either forward or backward, wherever you want, using the seek function, and tell function will be helping us to tell the cursor position. Okay, done. In the same way, in the read function also, we see whenever I'm calling read, guys, it is reading the entire contents, right? It is reading the entire content. Maybe I want to read only top 15 characters, 20 characters, something like that. So in the read function, you can provide some argument, like how many. Right now the size is -1, means it will read up to last. Okay, but I want to read only up to 10 characters, 20 characters. You can give that. Okay, so I'll just show a small example. So if I just say f dot read, and I'll just give like 10 here. Okay, f dot read 10 maybe. So it will read up to 10 character. Okay, these are the 10 characters available. Or maybe I'll just say read up to 50. Okay, so I'll just say f dot read up to 50. So it will read up to 50 characters. These are 50 characters. Now if we just see f dot tell, it is present at 50 position because we have read 50 characters. So it has read for top first 50 characters. It is at 50 position. Seek to 0, again read. So something like that. So you can read that many number of characters also using the read function. Either you can give -1. I mean -1 is default argument. But now if I give some argument, it will read up to that particular characters. So in this way, your read function works. And also read function can be used for reading multiple lines. I mean, we have a function called as read lines, not read. But read lines, if you want to read lines, okay. Let's take a simple text file only. Let me take the same text file only. Here, entire text is in one line only. But for example, if I try to separate this text data in multiple lines, maybe something like this. Let's see what happens. Okay, I'm just separating this particular data in multiple lines. Just see what happens. That's it. Okay, so here I'm having 4 lines of data. I see generally if I just save this, I'm just saving this and reading my contents once again. Okay, and I will read the entire data. Generally, if I read what happens, just observe. So what happens is it will add /n here. You know, right? What is /n? /n stands for next line. So you can see it is adding /n. So /n, this /n indicates that it is a next line. So if I just say print of f dot read, for example, if I say print, if I use print function, this /n works. Okay. So it will read line by line like this. Line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4. Okay. It is just reading a line, but entire data will be in text only. But if you want to read your line separately, means first line separately, second line separately, third line separately, maybe something like list. If you want to make your first line as one element of a list, second line as second element of the list, something like that. Okay, if you want to make your line separately, then you can use readlines function. Okay, so how do you use readline function? It's very simple. Again, I'm opening in my file. Okay, and I'll just say f dot read lines, or I'll write it bottom. Yeah, so I'll just say f dot read lines. So if I say f dot read lines, you can see here every line is actually separated by a comma in a list. Okay, so you can see this first line is the first element of the list, and second line is the second element of the list, third line is the third element of the list, and fourth line is the fourth element of the list. So we have 4 lines separated in the list. So like this, you can use read lines to separate your list, and you can use your multiple lines of function like this. So in that way, your read and read lines function work when you're working with a text file. Okay, perfect. Next. So now let's go to the next mode. So I guess most of the things regarding read we have learned. Let's go to the mode called as W mode. Okay, let's understand what exactly is W mode. Okay, so basically, as this says, as the documentation says, W mode will be opening for writing and truncating the file first. What is meant by truncating the file first? Let's understand. Okay, so first, what we'll do is let's open a file using W mode. Okay, maybe let's open the same file using W mode only. Just carefully observe. If I open the same file with W mode, let's see what happens. Okay, I'll use just mode W here instead of R. I'm opening the same file, but before that one, I'll just close the previous opening. Okay, cool. Now I'll just open the same file with W mode. Cool. My file is opened using W mode right now. I'll just go back and just check the text file right now, whatever I was having. So this was a text file I was having. So I'll just open this. And if you see the contents, nothing we have. So what happens when you open W mode, or whenever you open a mode in, whenever you open your file in W mode is, first, whenever you open a mode, whenever you open a file in W mode, it will truncate the file first. Means it will remove the existing file. It will delete the existing file and create a new empty file if the file is not present. If the file is present, sorry. So if right now already this particular file is present in this particular F drive. Okay, as this file is already present. Okay, so it is truncating the file first. It is removing the existing file and it is creating an empty file. So you can say an empty file was created, an empty text file was created called as lorem ipsum. Okay, now if you want to write some content into the file, you can write it happily. Just see how do we write it. So that is how W mode works. So whenever you're opening a file in W mode, just remember that it will remove the existing file. So it will remove the existing content. I can say remove the existing file means whatever existing content you are having, that will be removed. So when you want to replace an existing file, only use W mode. When you want to add an existing data, then again you have to use different mode. But if you want to replace a file and write a new file, then only use W mode. Okay, perfect. Now let's try see how can we add some content into the file. So as I told you already, if you want to add some content into the file, you have to use write mode. So we can say f dot write. Sorry, if you can use f dot write function. Sorry. And here, let me take the same content here, whatever content was there previously. I'll just take the same content. I'll put in a single string and cool. I will just say write. Okay. So cool. I just opened it. I have written some content. Okay. I've just said used write function and written some content. Let me differentiate this. That would be more better. So I'll just say mode W. I'm just giving an heading such that we can have a variation. Perfect. Cool. Now, yeah. So I've written some content. I've opened it. I've written some content. Now let's go back and check whether the data was written or not. Okay. So I'll just go back and open a file, and you can see still the data is empty. Still the contents are empty. Why? Why do you think? See, here comes the main advantage of close. See, guys, the main important thing is when you're updating your file, okay, when you're updating any file, if you don't call close, whatever updation you have done, that will not work. Here you're trying to write some data into the file, and here you have not closed yet. So when you don't close your file, what happens is it will not update the existing content. So if you want to close your file, you have to use f.close for sure. Okay, you have to use f.close. If you use f.close only, it will close your existing file and it will update the content. Means the contents, whatever you updated, that will be saved. Okay, so I'll just say f.close. Now let's go back and check whether the contents were updated or not. Yes. So this is the main importance of close. So never ever forget to write close. So if you don't use close while working with files, your contents, whatever you're having, is not updated. I've just shown you just an example. Okay. In that way, your write function works. Cool. Now, write function, the W mode can be also help us to create a new file also. So let us see how can you do that. Let me create a new file in the current folder only. To do that, it is very simple. You can simply say f is equal to open, and I'll just make my file name as sample.txt. So I'll just say sample.txt. And one more important thing is here I'm not giving any drive here. So whatever file I've created will be saved in the same folder, whatever I was using. Okay, it will not create a new it will not save in other folder or something like that. So directly I can use a file name as I want to save my file in the same folder where I'm working on. So you can use directly the file name. But if you want to save in different folder, you have to give the entire path, something like this. So if I use like this, then it will be saving in the F drive. But if I want to save in the same folder, I can use like this. Okay, comma mode equal to W. So if I use mode equal to W, just see what happens. If I just go back and check, and yes, you can see just seconds ago, a file called as sample.txt is created. Right now it is empty, of course. Okay, so W mode will be helping us to create a new file also. If the file is already present, it will truncate that. It will remove the existing file, remove the content, and use it and open it for writing purpose. Okay, now happily I can write some content. Maybe I'll write like this. This is sample text file, something like that. Okay, and of course you should close. If I don't close, what happens? If I just open your file, so nothing got updated because you have not yet closed. So now if I just say f.close, and now if we just check it, yes, if I just refresh here, yes, the content got updated. So in this way W mode works. What if you want to write multiple lines? Like we have read lines, right? We have a function called as read lines, which will be helping us to give us a list of lines. In the same way, if I want to write multiple lines, in that case, what we can do is there is a function called as write lines. So in these write lines, if you want to write multiple lines of data at a single go, okay. If you want to write a multiple lines of data at a single go, you can use write lines. So what I will do is I'll just say write lines and I'll just copy the list only. So in write lines, your input should be list of lines. Okay. The list of lines to send your data, means to update your files. So it should be list actually. So I'm giving a list like this, and whatever lines I was having, the same thing. I just copied the above lines. That's it. So you can see, and I will run this. Okay. Okay, so you can see IO operation on closed file because I've closed the file and I have not opened again, right? So let me open it again. So let me try to open this because I've closed it, I've not opened it. So now I'll try to write lines. Yes, it worked. But again, if I don't close, you can see my content has not updated. I just refreshed it. Okay. My content is not updated. Now I'll just say f.close. Just now check, refresh. Yes, you can see your data is saved in the multiple lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 lines, because I'm giving in a list. So in that way, read lines and write lines function works perfect. So in this way, your W mode and R mode works. Okay. Now here in R mode or W mode, we were trying to read your file and write your file. And in the when you're writing your file, you are trying to means write what write mode does. It can open an existing file. It can open an existing file, but when you're opening an existing file, it will remove the existing file and it will create a new file. Obviously, means it will replace the existing file. Here we have something called as mode X. Mode X is especially used for creating a new file. By chance, if a file is not present and if you want to create it, you can use you can use mode X and you can open it for writing purpose. Obviously, it can be used for writing purpose. So let me show you first. Let me create a file and show you. So I'll just say first I'll just say mode X, right? Okay. So F is equal to open. File name might be test.txt, some random file name I'm taking, comma, mode is equal to X. Okay, mode X. So you can see the it ran and it successfully ran, and you can see here my file called as test.txt was created seconds ago. And as it says that it will open it for writing purpose, it will opening for writing purpose. F.write. This is example of X mode, right? So just go back and just check. Obviously, we know that this will not get updated because we have not used close. We have not done close. So if I just say f dot close, it will get updated. Let's go back and refresh. Happily, it got updated. So now what's the difference between W mode and X mode is? See, W mode, what it does, it can open an existing file, right? If the file is already present, it can truncate the existing file and replace it. But what happens if I open an existing file? Let us assume that I have the file called as, already I'm having a file called as sample.txt, right? So if I try to open an existing file using mode X, what happens is, I'll be getting an error called as file exist error. So if the file is already present and if you try to open a existing file, I would get an error called as file exist error. So from this, we can raise a point that with mode X, you cannot open an existing file. Mode X is explicitly used for creating a new file. If the file is already present, you cannot open with mode X. You have to use mode W if you want to replace an existing file. You have to use mode R for reading purpose. For updating purpose, we'll learn right now, that is mode A. We'll see that, okay? But if you want to open an existing file in mode X, that is not possible. Cool. So it will not allow to open an existing file. Okay, so it will create a new file opening for writing. Okay, doesn't allow to open existing file. You can also write a point here saying that doesn't allow to open existing file. Okay, if you want to try to open an existing file, it doesn't allow that. Okay, next we have something called as mode A. Mode A is nothing but, if you see in mode W, what we're doing, whenever you have a contents, let us assume you have some contents in the file and you want to replace the content, or if you want to replace the entire file, you will be using mode W. But mode A is slightly different. It's like append mode. It stands for append mode. So when you want to append new data to the existing data, you can use A mode. Means, for example, you have a file with you, and you want to append some information to the existing information, you can use append mode. And not only for that, append mode can be also used for creating a new file and writing some extra new content also, not only for appending the older content, but if you want to add a new content with creating a new file, you can use. So basically, you can use mode W for creating a file. It will be helping us to create a file. We can use mode X to create a file, and you can also use mode A to create a file if file is not present. But let us start working with mode A by creating using an existing file. Then we'll see how to create a new file using mode A. Okay, so let's go back and just say like this, mode A. Okay, you can simply just copy this file. Okay, I'll just use sample.txt. Okay, and I'll do like this, and I'll open with mode A. Okay, so what is the main important thing is, by default, mode A will be opening your file in the last cursor. So append means what? It will append at the last. Okay, So if we just say f dot tell here, you can see my cursor position is at 579, means it is opening at the last position. Now we can write some content. So you can simply say f dot write by giving a space. This is example of append mode. Okay. So I'll just give this content like this, and I'll just say f dot close, because if I want to update, I should close it. And if I just go back and check the sample.txt, yes, you can see this is example of append mode got updated here. So in the existing file only it get updated. But if you want to write in next line, then what we can do, you have to give /n for sure. Again, I'm opening the file. I'm doing /n here. Okay, and if I just go back and refresh this, reload, you can see I got this in the next line because I've used /n there. So in that way, depending upon your requirement, you can append using the append mode. Okay, you can use the append mode to add the data. Okay, that is how append mode works. If you want to add a data into the existing file, if you want to append an existing file. Okay, but for example, if you want to use append mode and maybe try to create a new file and add extra content, also you can do. For example, let's assume that if you want to create a file called as maybe data.txt. Right now you can see the file called as data.txt is not present in my folder. So I'll just say data.txt right now, and I will just say f.write, so new content, something like that, new content added. Okay, and if I close my file, and if I just go back and check, yes, a particular file called as data.txt is created. And if I just open that, yes, you can say new content added. So this is a file created using the append mode only, and added using append mode only. So in this way, you can use append mode for adding the data. Okay, adding the new data also, for example. Okay, in this way, append mode works. So before talking about the T and B, basically right now we are using text mode only. By default, we are using text mode T. So because we are working with text files, we are using T mode. But before talking about binary mode, let's talk about plus mode, a mode called as plus. Basically, guys, plus mode will be helping us to open your file for both reading and writing purpose. Means right now, if we just look at let's look at about W mode or A mode or X mode. Whatever mode you open, you cannot read your file. For example, let's assume that I'm opening a file with A mode, and if I just say f.read, it says that it is not readable. See, in the R mode, it was not writable. In A mode, it is not readable. In the same way, if you open your file with W mode, still it is not readable. However, there is no content also, and it is not still readable. Okay, and maybe if I open your W mode with or X mode, still it is not readable. So either it is in the above modes, whatever we talked, either it will be opening for reading purpose or writing purpose. But if you want to open for both reading and writing, we have to use plus. We have to append, means we have to use plus for with any specific mode, means you have to use R plus or W plus or X plus or A plus, something like that. Majorly we'll be using R plus and A plus a lot. W plus and X plus is not much used, but mainly R plus and A plus is used. So let's see how to use plus mode with R. Okay, I'll start with R plus. Okay, so whenever you add plus here, it means that you're telling your Python that to open for both reading and writing. Okay, so let's see. Let's start with mode R plus. Okay, and now let me try to open the file with R plus mode and just check what happens. Let me open this sample.txt only, maybe. Okay, because we have some contents in this file. Let's see whether we have contents in this file. Yes, we have contents. So now if I just say R plus mode, yes, whenever I say f is equal to open sample.txt mode is R plus mode, it will be opening for writing and reading. First thing, let me check whether we are able to read or not. Yes, we're able to read the contents as usual. This is possible. But let's see whether we're able to write or not, because this writing operation was not possible for R mode. Okay, let's see whether we are able to write some content. So I'll just say write this is example of R plus mode. Okay, so yes, here the same write function when I used for R mode, I was getting an error called as not writable, but here R plus mode was able to do that. Now I'll just say f dot close and just go back and check whether my file data got updated or not. Yes, you can see my data got updated, seeing that this example of R plus mode. So in that way, I can actually happily add my data. And if you just see here, whenever I call f dot write, it is adding at the last, right? It is adding at the last. Why? Because I've read here. After reading, what happened here is my cursor immediately went to the last position, and that's the reason it's writing at the last position. You can see if I say f dot tell, it is writing at the last position. But for example, if I want to start writing from the first position, happily you can do f dot seek 0, and if I say like this, and if I say close, and if I just go back and check, you can see I got at the first position. So like this, you can either shift your cursor something like this to write your files in a specific position using R plus mode. Okay, so in this way, R plus mode will be helping us to read and write your data. Let's use A plus and see how it works. So you can simply say mode A plus, and here I'll just use A plus, and I'll just use f dot read. See, let's see whether we were able to read the content. We can write it because already we have seen that in the A plus mode, we were able to write, because append mode was to add the existing content at the last, right? But let's see whether we are able to read your data or not, because in the previous case, whenever I was using A mode, I was not able to read my content. I only able to write. So if I just say f dot read, let's see what happens. Yes, I'm able to read. See, I'm not getting any error, but you can see that the contents are empty. Again, you can just guess why these contents are empty right now. It's very simple. We clearly know that whenever you open your file with A plus mode, always the cursor will be at the last. As a cursor will be at the last, and whenever you call f dot read, it is reading from the last position. So what we can do, for example, if I want to read from the first position, then what I can do, the moment I open my file, I should first seek my position to 0, and then call read function. Then it will read your data. So using your A plus mode also, you can read your data in this way happily. Okay, so using your A plus mode also, you can read. See, in the only A mode we cannot read, but using A plus mode you can read like this. So in this way your A plus mode works. We are not exploring about W plus and X plus because we don't use much. Mainly we'll be using R plus and A plus only, because in W mode, always see, whenever you open your file with W, it will truncate your file, so there will be no content to read in the file. There is no of plus there. And in the same way, if I open the X plus is also creating a new file, so there will be no content in the file. So W plus and X plus is not used for reading purpose at all.